everyone, and welcome to another episode of Taco Matta Tuesday, the show where we eat healthy, delicious tacos and have conversations about life. Hey, you guys, welcome back to the show. Excited to have you this week. We got a special episode for you. We are doing a listeners Q&A. It's been a little while since I've done that, and I know the last time I asked for listener questions, I had a really good time answering some of them. So have a couple rapid fire questions plus a couple of deep in thought is what we'll call those questions. So excited to get to those. But first, before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about the healthy, delicious taco of the week. Y'all, it is crockpot season. Do you guys, okay, hold on just a second. Let's have a conversation. Do you know that Dave has never had a crockpot before in his life? He doesn't cook crockpot meals. He doesn't even understand, you guys, like living with a crockpot. So I am going to change his life by bringing my crockpot into the home and creating some stellar meals, especially over the winter months when A, it's cold and you just want something warm, and B, when you're lazy because it's so dark outside 24/7 that you just don't want to do anything. So if you are saying hallelujah to that, you are going to be super excited for this week's recipe, which is brisket tacos. One of my favorite tacos to eat when I go out is brisket. And so I wanted to create a healthy, delicious version of it that obviously can be done in the crock pot. So if you are interested in seeing what it is that I put together, be sure to check out the show notes before you leave the episode today. All right, y'all, let's jump on in. So I put out a story on social media, both on Facebook and Instagram, saying, hey, I want to do a listener Q&A podcast. Drop all your questions below. Anything regarding mindset, things that you want a perspective on, things that you want to know about me personally. Like, I'm here to answer all and just have a fun, goofy, genuine, all the types of conversations that we could possibly have. So with that being said, let's jump in with the very first question. How big are your legs? You guys could probably guess if you followed my stories and postings over the last 24 hours who that one came from. So if you haven't yet, go check out my Instagram page. Or you can go check out my Facebook page too, but Instagram's probably easier to find it. If you go to Instagram and you click on one of the first videos there, it's going to say, my boyfriend thinks that his legs are bigger than mine. You know, there is a lot of things that he is great at, super talented at, has easily strength-wise over me. The one thing he does not have over me is the size of legs. I have built up some freaking massive tree trunks. And so when he was like, yeah, my legs are bigger than yours, I was like, nah, dude, we're putting that to the test. And so we literally scheduled a date to bring out the tape measure and put this whole debate to rest. And I had 61 centimeters around the biggest part of my leg. He had 57. So needless to say, Kayla won, and Kayla won hard. So all of that to say, though, I thought I would turn this fun question into something motivational by saying, can we just really quick celebrate that we could have whatever body type we want? As someone who has been through a lot with her body in the last 4 to 5 years, going from 205 pounds to 75 pounds down, I was 135 at my smallest, and now I fluctuate between 145 and 150. I think I jumped on the scale the other day just for fun, and it was 147, right? And for anyone that's gone through a massive weight loss transformation, to go up 10 to 12 pounds, that can be absolutely terrifying, right? I definitely have a higher body fat percentage than I used to. Clothes definitely fit a lot different than they used to, but I am so in love with what my body is capable of doing. Like, the things that it allows for me to do, from competitions to workouts to just even being healthy and not having to ever say no to anything, because I'm like, yeah, I can handle that. Like, I know that my body's got my back, and I built it this way to have my back so that I can trust it all the time. It's just such a really cool place to be. And so can we just celebrate that we can be whatever shape, size that we want, as long as it reflects what's most important to us in life. And what I mean by that is it allows for you to create the moments that you want to experience on this earth. It does not matter what size you pick up of pants or shirts. It does not matter what that number on the stupid scale is. If anything, that's just data and things to remember. It does not define you. It does not define your worth. And one thing that I absolutely love is I was watching the Rogue Invitational this past weekend, and to see so many shapes and sizes of women walk through there and just execute nothing short of badassery, I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. This is what, like, living life to your fullest is all about, is not worrying about what the number says or what it means, but just being able to live in a way that feels so freaking good to you, that you feel empowered of like, hell yeah, I can say yes to whatever it is that I want to, because I'm taking care of my temple in the way that I want to. I'm building my temple in the way that I want to. So just let's celebrate that this is no longer like, how skinny can you be? This is how powerful can we be, and what is it that we want to be capable of doing? Like, what a freaking stellar movement and place to be in our lives. And if you're not there yet, just know that I have struggled through every single bit of getting to this point, and I still do here and there. Like, there's some days I feel more bloated than others. There's days where I can definitely tell that I've gained weight, but it's like, what does that mean? Why does it matter, right? If I am sleeping properly, if I am eating in a way that not only fuels my body for the work that needs to be done, but in a way that I also really enjoy, and not cutting myself short all the freaking time because all I'm allowed to have is a vegetable, otherwise it's too many calories, right? Like, I used to be that way, where it was like I couldn't even have a freaking normal carb because I was afraid of gaining weight. I've been there, and I can tell you that there is hope for you on the other side, with help from a coach, with help from a community. It is such an awesome freaking place to be. So just know that there is hope for you, and you can get there, and that you're more than enough. You are beautiful. I don't want to sit there and be like, you're amazing the way that you are, because like, clearly you want to be better, but be better because you want to do something great with your life, not because you want to fit in to this I have to be skinny in order to be loved trend, because that is so stupid. Like, I don't mean to be rude there. I hope that didn't offend anyone, but that is just so not the way that we should be living our life. So that's my little rant on that. So thanks, Dave, for asking, how big are your legs? Next rapid fire question. What's your current eating plan look like during the week? I love this question because it kind of rolls into what we were just talking about too. I will say that I am fairly vanilla. I am totally fine eating the same thing basically over and over again, switching a few things here and there. So if you are looking for some crazy exuberant plan, I ain't gonna be able to give it to you. But I can at least give you an idea of what it is that I eat, and I'm not gonna break it down into macros and grams and this and that. Like, that's just too much. I'm just going to tell you what types of food that I'm eating in the hopes that it gets you to think outside of the box of like, oh, I didn't even think about that as a meal, but also to think about how simple healthy can be, right? So I'll just actually start from, let's just say, a normal training day. And I'll even do one of my heavier training days, which is where I will teach a strength class in the morning. I have a couple clients. I never do my workouts with my clients, but I have a couple of clients. So I'm on my feet. I'm demonstrating, right? So I'm still active to a standpoint. And then I will hit a second workout at some point during that day. Those are what I would call my 2-a-days or heavier days, where fueling is super, super important. So when I wake up, the first thing that I do is drink water. Like, I try and drink anywhere from 8 to 12 ounces of water just to get the system going. Guys, we lose a lot of water while we sleep. I know that sounds really weird because we're at rest, but our body, like that, when it's in recovery, it's doing a lot of repairing and a lot of recovering, right? And so in order for those processes to happen, water is something that is heavily used. And I mean, for God's sakes, our water is made up of at least 60% water. Our body is. So we have to continue to keep it at that space. Otherwise, a lot of really not so great things happen. Okay. So all of that to say, first thing that I do is I want to slam water. So I'll do that. And then I have gotten really good at eating before my workouts. And for those of you that are like, I can't do that, I have the worst tummy cramps or gastrointestinal pain, I get you. I've been there before. And it's taken some time to get past that. But one of my favorite quotes from Nick Bare at Bare Performance Nutrition is, once you've trained fueled, you will never train fasted. And I cannot share that enough because it is so true. And for all of my lady friends that are listening, if you have heard the trend around intermittent fasting, I'm not going to sit there and say it's a crock of shit, because clearly intermittent fasting has done a lot of incredible things for a lot of people. Unfortunately, what I've come to do in my specific research, take this with a grain of salt, this is what I've come to learn, is that a lot of intermittent fasting, testing, and studies in the past have been done on men. And the women's body, based off of how we regulate our hormones throughout the month and just how different our makeup is, we function differently, and therefore we need different things and different amounts of different things. And so when we try to intermittent fast and then do a workout, it's actually hurting us more than it's actually helping us. So I don't want to tell you that to be like, you're wrong, and to go scared to be like, you've been doing it all wrong. Look, we're all learning, right? And at the end of the day, you have to do what you feel is best for your body. But I will tell you, just through my research and through personal experience, that once you train fueled, you will never train fasted again, because it really, truly does help. And if you want to listen to a little bit more on intermittent fasting, just how to do nutrition specifically for women, go and listen to Dr. Stacy Sims. She was on the Huberman Lab. That's where I specifically listened to it from. But just look up Stacy Sims and you will hear so much about her work. Like, she's really trending right now in just women in nutrition and fitness. So just fantastic resource. So I'll let that, I'll digress on that there. So anyways, I get up and I eat. And one of my favorite things to eat in the morning is actually toast. I love Dave's Killer Bread because of a couple reasons. I love the seeds and the fiber that are in it. I love the ingredients. Like, I look at the ingredients and I don't see any like oils or weird processed things in there that are like, ugh. Like, I can read things that are actually on the label, which is important to me. And it also has a good amount of protein in it. Like, one slice of bread, or even like one bagel, for example, has anywhere from, for a slice, it's like 5 to 6 grams of protein, or for an entire bagel, it's like 11 to 12 grams of protein, right? And you don't find that in normal breads. Like, normally it's maybe a couple grams per slice. Like, this is super dense with protein, and it's not like super high in calories either. Like, I'd say it's fairly normal. So I love having a piece of toast, and I will top it. I will be very conservative with the amount of peanut butter that I use, because having a lot of fats before you go and do a workout, especially if it's an intense workout, that's where a lot of the gastrointestinal pain will come from. So just be on alert for that. There will be days, if I know I'm about to hit a hard workout, I'll cut out the peanut butter and I'll just put jelly on it. I tend to do like just straight up, no bull crap jelly. Like, I'm not going to get the sugar-free stevia type stuff. Like, that's just not my jam. Sugar is not bad for you. You just need to not eat a bunch of processed sugars. So I'm totally fine if it has added sugars in the jelly. But that's what I will eat starting off in the morning. So I get a good amount of proteins, I get a little bit of fat, and I get a good amount of carbs in before I actually hit that workout. I'll do the workout. Immediately after, I go and hit a post-workout shake. And this post-workout shake kind of depends on which workout I'm doing, but especially if it's strength-based, I personally like to do 25 grams of my whey protein, which I do drink Bare Performance Nutrition. No, I'm not a sponsored athlete by then, but hoping one day I will. But I can speak to the quality of their products, that he is truly one of the best, especially for the price that they cost. So scoop of whey protein for 25 grams. I will also add creatine in there. For the ladies that are listening, creatine is really important to you. I'm not going to explain the science behind it because I won't do it justice, but Stacy Sims can talk a little bit more about that if you listen to her stuff. I put in half of an element. I put in the chocolate salt. I love the chocolate element salt. It's so freaking delicious. So I'll put in half of that. And I will also put in a scoop of collagen, also from Bare Performance Nutrition, and that has an additional 20 grams of protein. So right there, I'm getting in 45 grams of protein, which I know a lot of people are like, I really struggle to eat enough protein. I'm like, in one drink, like in 8 to 12 ounces, I'm getting 45 grams. There are ways to figure it out. And I will typically pair that with a carb as as well too, just to replenish my glycogen storages as well. So I'll typically have a banana, maybe a couple pieces of mango, something of that sort. And then a couple hours later, probably like an hour, hour and a half later, I'll come back and eat something a little bit more substantial, not only to fill in the gaps from whatever nutrients I didn't get from the first one, but also from the fact that I also have to fuel up for the next workout effort that I'm doing. So I will have a pretty large serving size of oatmeal. Let me actually pull up, what is it called? 7 days. So I found this at Sierra Trading Post. It is also online. You can look up 7 days. They have cereals, they have oatmeals. Oh my gosh. All of their products are so good. And again, made with great whole food type of ingredients, great fibers, great amount of proteins, great tasting, big fan of their stuff. So I will have a serving of that. And then I will also add in just an additional serving of straight up oats. So that way I'm getting anywhere from 40 to 60 grams of carbs at a bare minimum. Sometimes I'll actually slice up some more banana or additional fruit like strawberries and put it in there just to bump up the carb grams just a little bit. And then I'll have 2 eggs. And I don't do egg whites. I mean, I'm not opposed to egg whites. I definitely big fan of them as far as like adding them in with normal eggs just to up the protein content without upping the fat content. But I just do 2 eggs. I get additional protein and I get additional fat. I'm already getting so much protein from the oatmeal because again, this is protein oatmeal specifically. So again, getting a good source of protein and carbs, which in the training phase that I'm in right now, those are the 2 things to really prioritize is that, and to take down your fats just a little bit to leave more calories open for, again, the proteins and for the carbs. So that's in the first part of my day. I'd say all that is eaten by 11 a.m. Guys, I also get up at 4 a.m. So I've lived a little bit of life by that point. Going into the lunch hour, I typically have a starchy carb of some sort. I will have a vegetable because I'm a big fan of vegetables, and protein. So what that might look like is either a sweet potato or a russet potato. I love those little mini potatoes, especially the purple ones. Oh my gosh, those are so delicious. But that, my current like vegetable that I'm in love with right now, actually I'll say 2 vegetables, is roasted butternut squash and carrots. Just the sweetness of those is just so cozy for wintertime. I'm just, again, big fan. And then I will pair that with a substantial source of protein. And at this point, this is where I'm starting to bring in animal source protein into my meals. So whether that be ground chicken, ground turkey, a lean source of beef, like those are really what I'm after. So again, those are really the 3, is some sort of chicken. Sometimes I'll even grab a rotisserie chicken off of the shelf because it's simple, and they're delicious. And I hate when my chicken is dry, and that's one way to make sure your chicken is not dry. So yeah, like I said, rotisserie chicken or ground chicken, ground turkey, and steak. Those are basically the main things that I will eat, and I'll just swap those in. So that's really it. The other thing that I would say in terms of my carbs is if I'm not eating potatoes, I'll typically have rice. And I like to have rice that has a little bit of quinoa, a little bit of brown rice. The rice that I have is actually a pre-made rice where it has quinoa, brown rice, and flaxseed, and sometimes a little bit of garlic in it. I just really like all of those for several different reasons. So that's something that I also do. But guys, I keep it really simple. Again, it really depends on what it is your goals are. If you're trying to look at, what's the word that I'm looking for? If you're trying to fuel for performance or if you're trying to fuel for physique, those 2 things are different. And the biggest lesson that I had to learn is that when you're fueling for performance, you can't fuel for physique. Like, you will gain extra weight. It is what it is, but it's not going to be unhealthy weight. It's just you storing up the glycogen needed to put in the work necessary, right? I have put on so much muscle. Literally, I am a tank right now. And that's due a lot to not only the work that I'm putting in, but also fueling to recover from the work that I'm putting in and to continue to have those storages for the work that I will put in the future. So that's what I eat during the week. And I'm also a big fan of like having a cheat meal. I guess I forgot the most important meal, which is the snacks that I have and the dessert that I have. So the snack that I have typically in between my lunch and between dinner time is I will do a cottage cheese or a non-fat Greek yogurt. So my cottage cheese, I tend, just at least for right now, I'm going more on the lower fat side of it. Siggi's, Siggi, that is the type of Greek yogurt that is really, really delicious. They also have more plant-based types of yogurts as well, but you get a good amount of protein just in 1 cup of that. And then I will add in a little bit of like chocolate peanut butter granola, because yum, and some chopped strawberries. So again, getting a little bit of everything just in that meal. And so that'll be something that I eat as a snack in the mid part of my day. And then for dessert, I am a huge fan of Yasso bars. Yasso. If you have not had a Yasso bar, you have not lived. This is how I get away with having a massive sweet tooth and not ever feeling guilty. These are Greek yogurt bars. They are lower in calories, which again, for me, the calories isn't necessarily the thing that I'm worried about. I just need calories. But for those of you that are trying to obviously fuel for physique, you need to obviously keep the calories somewhat in mind. But they have incredible flavors. Their ingredients, I don't think are bad, just based off of what I know, and they're super tasty. So for 80 calories, I get a chocolate fudge Yasso bar every single night, and my heart is just really, really happy. So, and they have protein in it, like I think 8 grams of additional protein, if not 5 at the bare minimum. So again, yay, more protein before I go to bed. So there is that. Just make sure, you guys, that you're having fun with it. Like, there'll be 1 meal a week, or maybe 1 meal every other week, where it's not necessarily like what, it's not like the healthiest thing I could be eating, but I'm going out with Dave, or I'm going out with friends and family, right? And we're going to a fun restaurant, and they want to try this super cheesy looking delicious, appetizer. Great. It's okay to have it. It's not going to kill you. In fact, it's good for your system to mix it up a little bit and not just always put healthy in the system. So I'm sure there's some people that would fight me on that, but that's just my view, and to make sure that you have a healthy relationship with food. Okay, that one took a lot out of me. I just got really excited answering that question. The next question is actually very, very similar to the question that I just answered, which is recommendations for fueling pre and post workout. So I'll just, again, share this at a high level. We already talked about, once you trade fueled, you will never train fasted. I think that if you can start really small, whether it's sipping on something or eating something like a honey stinger, big fan of honey stingers or Stroop waffles, if you've ever heard of them. They're very light. They didn't really cause a lot of gastrointestinal pain as I was first getting started of trying to eat something before I actually train. So something small like that, even something like half a banana or just a couple pieces of fruit, that will do you so much better than trying to go fasted. So just getting in some sort of carbohydrates. I'd say carbohydrates are probably more important, or the most important. If you can get in a little bit of protein, amazing, right? Like, again, you've heard I get anywhere from 15 to 20 grams of protein and 40 to 60 grams of carbs for that pre-workout meal. So that way I have a good amount of fuel to go off of just for the workout alone. Post-workout, again, very same thing, except for I up that protein content a little bit more and keep the carbs right around the same. So again, 45 grams of protein and then 40 to 60 grams of carbs. And sometimes I might even be underdoing it. Like if I did like a big, long, grindy, like hour and a half long workout where I burned like 700 to 800 calories, especially something with running, which is a lot of what I've been doing lately, like add more to those numbers, okay? So don't be afraid of that. Like, you gotta eat. You gotta eat, okay? I will also share this, caffeine pre-workouts. What are my views on them? I've heard a lot of really great things in regards to caffeine in terms of how it can impact athletic performance. So from that standpoint, I am, a fan of it. I have definitely dabbled in pre-workouts in the past. I've also dabbled in just caffeine, using different type of caffeine sources as of lately, especially as I start to dial in my planning for nutrition for DECA World Championships. So what I will say there is that I unfortunately have a really tough time with caffeine. Like my stomach physically will hurt if I have too much of it, and I don't use it all, if that makes sense. So I have to be really, really careful with caffeine. I've never been a big fan of pre-workouts because they typically crack me out. So what I will do, I will say, if you are interested in seeing the effects of caffeine on your performance and your training, one thing that I have really enjoyed doing is I have Celsius. I don't have the cans. I have the box of like packets that have the powder, and I will like put in a third or put in a half. Like I never put in the full one, and I will sip on that throughout my warm up, and then within 15 to 20 minutes the effects will start to kick in. Like you'll feel a little bit of the buzz, but not overly cracked out. Again, unless you have the whole dang thing, then you might, because it's a lot of milligrams of caffeine. But it can definitely be beneficial. But that's what I personally do. I don't take anything else, so I can't recommend that per se. But yeah, so that's that. Okay, so those were some of the rapid fire questions, which I realized I did not really rapid fire those. I went on a long tangent. So hopefully these next ones are a little bit shorter for you guys. Now we're going to move into some of the deeper thought questions. There's 3 of them that I want to answer for you. The first question is, choose one phrase to be your golden nugget for life. So essentially, like, what is the golden nugget phrase that you'd have for anyone? Like, if you could go back and tell your future self as a kid one piece of advice, what would it be? That's essentially what I got from this question. And there are so many things. Like, this was so hard to just pick the one, but I wanted to stay true to the question. I would say the biggest thing that has allowed for me to live life to the fullest, to not sell myself short, and to actually love the life that I'm living and be excited about the future is that fear is your green light. I've said this a good couple of times, but you guys, getting uncomfortable is the best thing that you can do. Being in that state of fear, like, it is one of the most important things that you can feel, because it tells you so much. Not only does it tell you that it's exactly where it is that you need to be, but it's the thing that you need to work on. It's the insecurity that you need to face, like something just deeper than the surface level fear. Like, there is something deep down there to be tackled, and if you figure out how to unlock that, it's going to free you from so many different things. If I just stayed comfortable and if I listened to my fears and backed down, I guarantee I would still be working my 9 to 5, which was a lot longer than just 9 to 5, but I'll just say 9 to 5 corporate job that I felt stuck in for 4 years, right? And while I had the golden handcuffs of making a lot of money and continually getting promoted and just being really safe and protected, like I had so much stability, it wasn't fueling my fire. It wasn't doing anything for me. And like, to make the decision to leave stability behind during one of the most unstable times of COVID, like, was terrifying. To start my own business in something that I've never done before, outside of the fact that I was just super passionate about helping other people get healthy again. So, if it wasn't for that and taking that leap and really just allowing for fear to be like that, okay, I'm feeling fearful. I know that there's magic in this. I just need to follow it and trust that I can handle whatever comes on the other side. I really don't think that I would be anywhere near to who I am today and what I've accomplished today. So that would be my golden nugget phrase for life in general. The next deep in thought question: what's the best piece of advice you've given someone lately? I love this question, and I'm going to make sure I keep this answer separate from the last answer, because I definitely obviously feel like that answer that I just gave could fit. But to continue down the same thought process, I am training a good handful of women right now for their DECA World Championship. Actually, I think all of them except for one of them is going to World Championship for their very first time. And it is so exciting for me, knowing that last year was my first year, and now not only I get to come back and I've smashed my goals of racing in the elite wave, now I get to bring people into this with me and lead the way for them. Like, my heart is just so happy about it. But anyways, I've been working with them, and it's crunch time. As of today, we have 1 month and 1 day until World Championships kicks off. And when you get to that crunch time, you start to feel the pressure. The doubts start to come into your head around like, am I doing enough? Will I be able to accomplish what I want to accomplish? Like, you feel like you have to cram, and it can get really stressful, and it can lead you into overtraining and overworking, and that is the opposite direction that you want to go. In fact, I talked a lot about that on the episode last week. If you feel like you're in that space, go listen to that episode after you get done here. But essentially, one of the things that I told them that I feel like is such a good piece of advice for anyone that is going through, like, I feel like I'm just like, I'm under the fire, like the fire's to my feet, and I'm feeling the pressure, is to write down every single one of your doubts and fears. Like, take some time to just journal and think about the situation that you're about to put yourself in. So for me, I shared this last week during the podcast, is I think about when I step up to the starting line for my different elite races, and I started to write down, like, during the race, before starting the race, after the race, like even traveling there, like, what are all of my fears and doubts that I have? And just being really open and not judging myself for whatever it is that I wrote down was super helpful. But what it gave me was a chance to go through each of those items and have a conversation with myself around, is this true? Is this not true? If this is true, okay, how can we mentally overcome it? What can we do to set ourselves up for success? And especially when it comes to goals that you have in life, guys, you don't need to spend 1.5 million hours working to achieve a certain goal. In fact, one of the things that I've come to find is that it's all about the intentionality of the time that you spend. And I actually want to read a quote really quick from The Champion's Mind. This is the book that I've been reading and highlighting on social media. But I sent this to my girls the other night. It said, the quality of your work in practice, aka your input, determines your performance in competition, aka your output. Just remember that it's not about how much practice time you put in. It's about what you put into the practice time. The most important thing is that you think of each training session as an opportunity to buff up your body and mind, to polish the rock and sharpen the sword, to ultimately shine on the field when it matters. And I think that quote is so perfect, right? By writing down those fears, you're already getting super intentional. You're starting to see, okay, these are the things that are continually bombarding my mind. And if I can think about, okay, if this is true, what specific action item is going to set me up for success? Guys, that is intentional action taking right there. So I shared all of those things with my coach. And now, like, each time I show up to a training session, I look at some of those things of like, hey, these are the actions that I really want to focus on. I think about which one of these is it satisfying. And if it's not, I need to make sure that there's an intention to the workout. Otherwise, what's the point of me doing it, right? And I do that every single week when he comes out with the schedules. I think about, what is it that I want to get out of this? Like, what is the importance of this workout? And that is taking ownership of your training and how you spend your time. It's taking it to a whole new level. So I really think that that's the best piece of advice that I've given as of late, to not only just athletes working for big things, but also just for anyone working towards anything that's important in their life. Just being able to, again, have those genuine conversations with yourself to see what those doubts may be, and then figuring out what intentional action it's going to take in order to accomplish that. So, all right, last question of the listener Q&A podcast episode. When do you know it's time for a change? This question gives me a lot of goosebumps and somewhat makes me emotional, but it makes me emotional in all the best ways, because I've had a lot of change in the last handful of years. Let's just call it 5 years, between completely transforming my body, which then allowed for me to transform how I live my life, to completely jumping ships of careers. And that obviously came with a lot of financial stress and different sort of obligations that I had to learn and take on and take a risk on, to now where I'm at a really good fork in the road. And I'm not going to share. I might get the opportunity to share a little bit more in a couple of weeks, maybe a couple months from now, of just like where I'm heading next. But there's some really exciting things that are happening. And when I would say the last couple of weeks, I was not looking to make really a change with much of my life. I'm like, man, my life's feeling really good. I don't see a reason to try and ruffle the feathers. Well, then there was some opportunities that came my way, and those opportunities would lead to this fork in the road of, okay, well, I've got to make some decisions of what's going to be best for me long term. And so when I was in this space of, okay, like, what do I do? There's a couple things that I started to look for, but there's also a couple things that I started to remember. The first thing that I remembered was that I didn't have to make a decision right here in this moment. Like, just because you're feeling like change needs to happen, it doesn't mean that it needs to happen right here in the moment. And it doesn't mean that you need to know the how to get from point A to point B. I feel like the steps in between of like what exactly it is that you're going to do really stops a lot of people in their tracks from exploring the idea, and taking the leap of faith, quite honestly. And so I would just say, just know that like through time, you'll be able to tell, and you have time. You have time on your side. Sometimes you don't, but 90% of the time you do have time on your side. And you don't need to make the decision right now. And this is the things that I look for is I'm just really open to the signs that the universe is ultimately throwing my way, because I feel like sometimes we just waltz through life and we don't notice a lot. And so this is a time for you to become really observant of your surroundings and what's going on. And I can promise you that there are things that are happening in your life right now that would give you a pretty decent sign that, I really need to think about this, or this is a sign that's telling me that I'm moving in the right direction, or for that matter, that I'm moving in the wrong direction. And for example, like moving in the wrong direction, if you feel like you have a ton of resistance, like you're walking up to said door and you've been jiggling on that handle for so long and you just are wondering, when is it ever going to work for me? You might be at the wrong door, right? And so that might be a sign alone. And I don't want to confuse resistance again with discomfort. Discomfort is like, okay, the opportunity is in front of you. You just need to take the leap of faith and go after it with courage. Resistance is like you're trying to do the thing and it's just not working out. It's just not giving you much back, right? There's a fine line between those two things, so I hope you can dictate between those. But typically that kind of resistance is not a great thing and is a pretty good sign that you're not doing the right things, right? Another thing that I look for is my energy. Like, do I find that I'm tired a lot? Do I have a pep in my step? Am I excited to get out of bed and do the thing that I'm supposed to do for that day? And if you find that that energy is down, well, that's another really big sign that you're probably in need of some sort of change or some sort of reboot. And granted, everything has its honeymoon phase. Like sometimes when you start a new job or you start a new goal, you're really excited. And then a couple weeks later, it's like, oh, okay, honeymoon phase is over. I'm tired of this, right? Like sometimes that will happen. But again, it's pretty noticeable of the pep in your step. Like there's just some times where you're just tired and you're having a rough week and you just don't want to do anything. But then there's the weeks where you're noticed if you're consistently feeling that way and you're just like, oh, this is such a drag. That's a pretty big sign that you're in need of a change. The last thing is if your subconscious or your gut is constantly like putting these conversations and thoughts into your head, you need to listen to them. Hands down. We do not listen to ourselves. We do not listen to our guts nearly enough. And we need to get better at doing that. And one way to get better at doing that is actually allowing for yourself some time to get silent and just be and see what comes up through your head and be able to have those open conversations with yourself, right? Knowing that, again, you don't have to make a decision right here and there, that whatever comes out isn't right or wrong. It's just thoughts. It's just data, right? We have to give ourselves the opportunity to listen to those things. And if you're on the edge of like, what do I do? always go back to that gut feeling. Always go back to that gut intuition, because I promise you, it will never steer you wrong. Thank you guys so much for showing up for you today. I hope that this episode was helpful. If there was a topic that I covered on that you feel like would be really good to share with a friend or a family member, be sure to send this along to them. But thank you guys again for showing up for you, and I'll see you guys next week for another episode for Taco About a Tuesday. See you then.